But tonight we begin with breaking news, and it does involve gun violence and teenagers.
Warning about a crime ring on the move across Metro Detroit.
A crime scene in Detroit.
375 murders.
Police say a man was found dead.
Kwame Kilpatrick and Bobby Ferguson.
9-year-old girl was stabbed to death.
Simply put, as bad as the economy is in America today, it's worse in Detroit.
Drugs. Violence.
Homelessness.
Pollution. Murder.
Now, it's the once vibrant city that has become, in effect, a failed state. The engine of America's car industry, the home of Motown, now a bankrupted Badlands. Its downtown long abandoned. Welcome to Detroit. Unemployment is twice the national average, property prices are plummeting, and anyone who can move out has done. Violent crime is the highest in the country, but don't bother calling the police, they'll take an hour to respond.
But come down here to the city. You know, I've been here, a resident here since 1975. And through my coaching, I've been all over Michigan, and I love Michigan, but there's still the myth of what goes on in Detroit, and too bad the media only shows you the bad, you know, because there's a lot of good people in here. So.
The media portrays Detroit as this just horrible city that's falling apart, and people don't care. And I had the exact opposite experience. My parents were amazing. My parents were supportive. They wanted their children to do well. We stayed after school. They were so thankful for anything that you did for their children, and they really, really appreciated it because they really wanted their children to have a better life.
So I bought a car from Novi, and I actually had some problems with payment issues. And the lady said, "Oh, you're from Detroit? I heard so many bad things. How could you be living there? You know, how do you protect your car and stuff like that?" And I was just, real surprised that she brought that up on the phone.
How did that make you feel?
It kind of made me feel like she needed to come here to actually find out, what Detroit is about. And see for herself, because she's probably never been here.
There's a lot of positives about Detroit, but it's also true there's a lot of negatives about Detroit. We face some serious problems that aren't easy to forget about living here.
How do you feel about the news then, how it portrays Detroit then?
The news, I don't know how to feel about that. I just feel like, no, that couldn't be happening, but, of course it is happening, but it's never affected me to, feel a certain way about living here in Detroit.
So I'm comfortable here, I'm reasonably happy here, I have a lot of friends here, and I think that's ultimately what ties a person to wherever they live. It's really the people you know.
The thing I like about Detroit and this is this neighborhood. I really like this neighborhood. It's an Hispanic oriented neighborhood, and I love my Mexican people. But there's a need here for people to care about one another, and there's several organizations here that do care, and we're we're going to come out of this crisis that we're going through right now. We're going to come through it in flying colors, but it takes one person, one step at a time to make all these dreams come true for everyone.
I used to go in really early. I think we started at 9 and I used to be there at 7. And I was never worried. I was never even thought about it until a custodian one day is like, you should not be here. But I personally never felt unsafe and never witnessed anything. I know some of my students had some pretty horrific things in their lives, in their neighborhoods that they had to deal with. But, I mean, look at here. We have that here, too. So.
What is it that you like about Detroit?
I like how resilient of a city it is. It's gone through just some of the worst of the recession we had, and it just kind of came out strong, still fighting. It's just a really tough city and a lot of really hardworking people there.
Is there anything that came out of Detroit that you really appreciate?
A lot of the culture, like the music, like the bands like MC5 and the Stooges, the White Stripes, and we got some of the best sports teams in the country. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you're part of a good community when you go to Detroit?
Yeah, absolutely. Even though you don't know the people when you go down there, I still feel very at home. I still feel like I belong there.
So the news is portraying Detroit in a very negative way. What you see on the news all day is murder, bad roads, stealing, carjackings, all that kind of stuff. My personal feeling with Detroit is it's not the best town to visit. If you go to Chicago, then come back to Detroit, compare the two, there's a lot of negatives with Detroit. That part is true. Although, a lot of people go down to Detroit, the sports centers are good, they're building down there, a lot of areas, restaurants, things like that. So do I go to Detroit and enjoy it? Yes. Do I feel comfortable down there all the time? No. Obviously there's worse parts of town and better parts of town. But living downriver, I get to go by Detroit, through Detroit, into Detroit, and visit quite often. So kind of a mixed bag. Is it bad? It has a lot of problems. Is it got some good points to it? Yes, absolutely.